Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Midday Western U.S. Regional Forecast video brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, as I always do, I'd like to start off with just our most recent picture of soil moisture and total accumulated precipitation. So we're going to go back over the last couple of weeks and take a look at things here. We know that at times over the last couple of weeks, we've been quite wet along the coast, especially in coastal Washington and Oregon. And we did bring in some much higher elevation snow into parts of the Sawtooth Mountains, even into the Blue Mountains, and of course the Northern Rockies. We do have a bit of a pattern change that is coming, so things are going to be looking a lot drier, especially as we normally see this time of year as we end our wet season. But what's important to see here is where we currently stand with soil moisture. So we look over here at the calculated soil moisture. This is from the CPC. They're a part of NOAA and the National Weather Service. And we can see that while much of the western United States is carrying this wet bias, we've been talking for several weeks now about how parts of northern Idaho, but really getting into the northern half of Washington here, things have been drier than normal throughout much of this winter. Now, let me show you this with just a little bit different perspective, though. You know, sometimes when we look at those soil moisture anomalies and the recent precipitation, it doesn't fully capture what's going on with our vegetation. So I want to show you this neat map here. This is a satellite-based image, and it's something called a vegetation health index. So when we look at this, what we want to do is pay attention to the colors. When we get over these cool colors on these maps, it represents really, really good vegetative health. And so when we look at this map, I really want to look at a couple of things. First of all, let's notice this is again for April 15th, 2019. I'll get a new update of this midweek this week. Look at California. You know, we've been talking and hearing so much about these big spring blooms, and we've seen the rapid accumulation of some early season, growing degree day units and heat units. Well, look at what it's done to California. We've got a lot in these cool colors representing some very healthy crop. Now, what you can do is you can compare 2019 to a year ago. That's what's over here on the right. That is April 15th, 2018. And overall, things look really good. But I want to take your attention back north where we were just talking. Specifically, I want to go to Montana. A year ago, due to the really, really cold April that we had, we didn't have any vegetative growth, in this northern western part of our region here because of how cold things were. This year, though, pasture health looks good. Things are getting going well. We're thinking about the spring wheat plant. We're talking about the winter wheat, how it's emerging, and how things are, or how it's coming out of dormancy, I should say, and how things are progressing. And overall, this is a much better picture than we saw a year ago. Now, coming back to the precipitation discussion, our next 60 hours or so, this gets us to Thursday this week, early Thursday morning, are looking very dry for much of the western region of the United States. Just some coastal precip there in parts of Oregon, Washington, and some very, very light stuff here moving through parts of the Northwest. California, you're going to be dry. We do have some changes coming, though. We should most certainly talk about those in a few minutes. But since we're on this idea of where we stand with precipitation as we move into the dry season, check out these series of maps here for California. We're going to start in the Northern Sierra here. We're right now having our fourth wettest time period on record. So 16, 17, 82, 83, and 97, 98 are all bigger years. Interestingly enough, those were all big El Nino years. So this is important. We are well above our average, which is this line right in through here for the Northern Sierra. Let's slide down into the San Joaquin Valley here. We see the same thing. Same years are on top here, but we're number 4 right there at 44 inches there in the reporting stations. And even slide a little bit farther to the south, we see the same story. So right now, California, you're going into this upcoming year with reservoir levels at excellent, they're high, excellent levels here, and total precipitation's good. I always just have to say this, though. Please remember, with all this early spring vegetative growth, we still have a dry season. Everybody knows that. So we're going to have to be very careful later in this season because all of that early spring growth could turn into, tinder that's used for fire. So we're going to have to be careful later this season. All right, let's now move into a quick discussion about temperatures. Let's look at this in two chunks. Day 1 through day 5 is shown here. So this gets us out to Saturday night. And we can see that primarily due to the flow of the jet stream in the Pacific, we got a warm week on tap, especially in California, Oregon, Nevada. Overall, a very warm week. So this is going to continue to green things up, keep us ahead of count on our growing degree day units. But look at this. As we get into day 5 through day 10, we got a pattern change to discuss here in a few minutes. And that's really bringing in some cooler weather here for the northern tier states, including the Pacific Northwest. Meanwhile, the Southwest and the Southeast are tending to stay on the warmer side of things. So that gets us out to day 10 here. Okay, so with that as the backdrop, we're going to now move into some details with this pattern. We got to start in the jet stream first. So troughs and ridges. As we play things out, there's a couple things I want you to notice. Yeah, first, big ridge builds out west. That's why we got warm temperatures this week. But the story is really taking shape here in the Gulf of Alaska and this deeper trough that's sitting here in northern Canada, almost the North Pole. What we're going to be watching is we're going to see ridging happening over Alaska and ridging happening over parts of Greenland, and that just takes the cold air which is sitting in this area and allows it to dip south once we get past this next 5 days. So this is again happening toward the end of the week and the weekend. So you got some warm days coming up, but watch what happens. So if you're in Montana, watch my video right now. You see that trough digging in right into there. Now, California, you got a dry week ahead until we get to the weekend, maybe Sunday morning. See that little cutoff low that's squeaking in there to Southern California? Maybe it changes some precipitation with this one, but now you can fully see it. Ridge here. Got the ridge that's building up in this area, and this trough is letting some cold air sink into Montana. So even though we were doing great with some warmer weather, we do have a cold snap that is coming through. But this is not that far off from what's normal for this time of year. All right, get rid of those drawings. We'll finish up this analysis of the pattern. See that little trough moves through California, bringing in the chance for some precipitation. But the reason why week 2 showed up a little bit cooler than average for the Northwest is because of that trough hanging out there in Western Canada. With time, though, what do we see? We see a good rebound here. We see that the atmosphere is trying to maybe get into more of a pattern like this, and that's generally a warmer pattern for much of the U.S. This isn't necessarily a wetter pattern. If I was looking at this in winter and I saw this trough feature here, I say, okay, we're going to be bringing in quite a bit of precipitation to the West Coast, but we're not. We're in spring here, and it's a little bit different setup overall. So that's kind of what our pattern is telling us here. Let's take a look at some of the details in terms of precipitation. Let me get this started for you here. There we go. So getting here out to Tuesday morning, still have some lighter precip still sneaking its way through parts of coastal Washington here, but not too much really to talk about. Let's keep progressing forward. You can see the scattered showers. This is not getting into the Columbia Basin, so dry in there due to elevation, but just higher elevation rain orographically induced. And look, I'm through Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You see things are dry this week. Not much to talk about. It's not until that trough finally starts to dig into north central Canada and we get these shortwaves coming around it here that parts of Montana, the Rocky Mountains, Wyoming, Utah, this is where we finally get some of our precipitation. But you got a beautiful several days coming up here before that colder air comes in with the precip by the time we get into the end of the week and weekend. So you can see it coming in there. But it's not going to be for California until next Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. See the effect of that little cutoff low I told you about? That it comes in here. May not be much precipitation at all for the Central Valley. This will be a coastal feature and then one that rides over the Sierra Nevadas. But that then slides through Southern California, orographically induced precip, and it heads on south. Outside of that, look, I got you all that to next Wednesday, May 1st. Maybe there's a system we got to watch coming into, parts of the Northwest, but this is the details are not really out there just yet, so I'm not sure about this one. But that just kind of takes us out almost to day 9, day 10 here, and you can see that over that time period things are relatively dry. That's why the longer range European model here is picking up on these drier anomalies throughout much of the next 2 weeks here, and there is agreement with the long range US model as well. So warmth, if you are south of a line about right here, so California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, this is going to be a warmer next 10 to 15 days. And just remember, you got warmth to start, but you're going to have some cooler air coming in here once we get that trough really set up. And so that's kind of our overall picture here of the weather that's going on in the western part of the United States. And we'll just keep a close eye on things, making sure we really understand what our water picture looks like as we move into this 2019 growing season. With that, though, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this forecast video. We at Nutrien Ag Solutions hope you look forward to our next Western Regional Forecast video. That'll come out on Friday midday. We got video content that goes up every day at my.nutrienagsolutions.com. Check that out. Hope you all have a great week. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.